Why are you suffering from aches, pains and illnesses? When there's help for you. At Health Service Centre, we offer a wide range of treatment that has been scientifically proven to help you with your aches, pains and illnesses. Our ICT machine is one of the most effective devices in the health field. It has shown positive results in many health problems, such as back pains, shoulder pains, migraine headaches, pain in the knees and legs, poor circulation, arthritis, diabetic neuropathy, numbness in the feet, strokes and sports injuries. ICT, repairs, rebuild. The power to heal, the future of pain relief.
It is well known that diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, and other illnesses may restrict blood flow, which can lead to impotence and erectile dysfunction. This is why Enhance was formulated to meet these challenging health problems, which can reduce your ability to perform. If you're having problems maintaining your manhood, then reclaim your manhood today with Enhance. Enhance increases your energy level, boosts your stamina, and increases your endurance.
You can get your Enhance at Southwell VA4, Restorer Pharmacy Soufre, Knights Med Miku, Lay by Bar The Morn, Dexter's Place Jeremy Street Castries, Citygate Bar The City opposite the market, Plants Place Denry Highway, Arlette Supermarket Soufre, The Release Stress Bar Labrie Highway, Cool Joint Bar Victoria Schwazel, Prios Bus Stop 22, next to the Moshi Bus Stop opposite the Grosley Bus Stop. Prios Bar and Grill in Corinth, Grosley.
Enhance, the best a man can get.
McDowell's Supplements, an effective way to ensure you and your loved ones are getting the daily recommended intake of essential vitamins, minerals, and other important nutrients necessary for optimal health. Naturally, we carry an array of health and wellness supplements. McDowell's Immune Booster enhances your body's defense to fight colds and flu, boosts your immune system, prevents viruses and other airborne diseases. McDowell's Colon Cleanser prevents constipation, helps in removing toxins from the colon, detoxifies the body, and regulates your bowel movements. McDowell's Prostate help prevent the enlargement of the prostate, improve urinary flow, and reduce frequent urination, especially at night. Moringa oleifera capsules are rich in minerals like calcium, potassium, zinc, magnesium, iron, and copper, vitamins like beta-carotene of vitamin A, vitamin B such as folic acid, vitamin C, D, and E. McDowell's Potassium Complex, used for treating and preventing low potassium levels, high blood pressure, preventing stroke, and aid in weight loss. McDowell's Triple Magnesium relaxes the muscles, relieves cramps and helps to control high blood pressure, improves sleep, and can calm the nerves. Magnesium is very important for the normal functioning of cells, nerves, muscles, bones, and the heart. McDowell's Ginger Turmeric helps to relieve pain, decrease nausea and enhance the immune function to help protect against illness and infection. Ginger turmeric has powerful anti-inflammatory properties and improves your circulation. Don't hold health back. Let health strike back. McDowell's, the better way to start your health. Visit Health Service Center, John Compton Highway, call 453-6417. Let your wellness be our stress.
Live streaming has become one of the best ways to connect the funeral of a loved one with friends and family, both local and international. NBC Television will live stream your funerals on television and Facebook at a reasonable rate. With our state-of-the-art equipment, you can be assured that the quality of your funeral will be to your satisfaction. Call our office now and book your obituary and streaming with us. 758-453-7458.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluffs. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with big issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM. The man, the voice.
Welcome once again to The Real Issues with me, Shelton Daniel, your host and producer, alongside our technical operator, Alton Jaquan Joseph. I hope you're having a good day so far and looking forward to the remainder of the week being as bright and beautiful as it has been. During the week, of course, we had some appreciable showers at some point. Not today, of course. The heat really feels like heat today, but I guess it's what makes the season and this time of the year particularly beautiful. Sorry about yesterday, but afflicted with some pains, some serious pains, you know. I don't know if you've ever experienced those, what I call the phantom pains, like it's a moving pain. And it's not to say in your belly where you can say the gas was there, so the gas moved lower down. You know, we have this thing about gas and the places that people say they have a gas. Sometimes I wonder if gas could find itself into those places. To me, you should be dead, you know. I can't remember hearing people talk about having a gas in their head for their headache and so on. But people tell you, you know, they feel a pain in their chest, you know, it's a gas that's there. And sometimes, well, I can understand the belly. That's where the stomach and the digestive system and the intestines are. So gas and bloating and so on can move in that area. But at one time, in one of my nice conversations with late Dr. Martin Didier, he said to me, he too has wondered whether the people who talk about having gas in there, you know, above the diaphragm, even though scientifically it's not the case, whether it isn't a situation where because of the pressurized drinks that we drink now, you know, the carbonated drinks, it's not that the gas will escape, you know, that space between, what's it called, the abdomen and the stomach. I think that part is called the thorax. He doesn't believe it happens, but he believes it can cause so much pressure building up in the stomach that pressure can actually impact a nerve. So it can rest on tissue areas that are connected to the upper part, and so there is the sensation. Another doctor told me that this is known as referred pain. So you can have a pain that really has nothing to do with the actual area where you're feeling it, but because there is some nerval conduit or whatever, that the pressure on the tissue there can cause a referred pain, so a sensation of pain in an area which it really does not have. But yesterday, you know, feeling a pain in my hip, which is nothing new for me, since being in a vehicular accident many years ago. That was when, around early 1994, so we're talking about, it's almost exactly 32 years, you know, and getting some blows and so on. I've had intermittent hip pains. As a matter of fact, I'll reveal to you maybe for the first time that it is where the struggle with the weight really began. You know, it didn't start as what you see now, but it started gradually. Anytime I went to exercise, I would exercise, but afterwards I would have pain, particularly in the left side, the hip and so on, where most of the injuries were. I had a broken bone inside my shoulder, where the doctor explained to me, was it Dr. Poda who told me, the bone is broken inside, but we can't put a cast, you know, where it is on the shoulder. You just have to be careful, don't try to carry a load on that side and so on. And that's around the time that the twins that you heard me wish happy birthday on Monday were very young. So I guess being daddy, you know, you have to carry them, you have to let them clamber over you and so on, and I think that may have impacted it. But you know, these hip things have been starting, and sometimes I used to feel pain in the lower left side of my abdomen, and I'm always wondering, well, what's there? Do I have cancer? Do I have bowel? You know, the way we tend to worry about things and so on, and you know, the pain on the left side was almost like a constant, especially when I exercise, when I run, when I did one of my favorite exercises, which is squats, you know, and so on. I would get through them, but afterwards, how many days before I could do them again? Because apparently something got busted there. One time a doctor told me it's a thing known as a bursitis or something of that kind. You know, all the different names sometimes they stick with you. I hadn't felt it for a very long time. And then yesterday, Barela declared, and sometimes I'm trying to figure out why I haven't felt this for such a long time. But one time I'm feeling it on the hip, then it's shooting down the leg. And then I wasn't too worried because I understood it had been explained to me about the referred pain. And you might feel the pain. Yes, it's in the hip, but because of the referred, you might feel it like it's in your lower left abdomen, which they did all kinds of things for me, all kinds of of scan, and there's something where they push a tube, up your bottom to snake it right up there, and said the place I'm describing is exactly where there is a bend called the sigmoid colon, and maybe there is something there, blockage there, and maybe there is whatever compression of gas and so on. They did everything, can't find anything of colonoscopy, which was done for me by 2 different doctors. One said, well, no, one did the colonoscopy, the other one did what is known as an endoscopy to see if everything came back negative. And do you know this was the period in which I first met in person Dr. Almus McDowell? Yes, that's how I met him in person for the first time, because when all the conventional doctors told me they cannot see anything is wrong, everything with the colon is okay, everything is okay, and if it is something with the hip, I should not be feeling it in the abdomen. That was before it was explained to me about referred pain, But Dr. McDowell, and people can say what they want about him, and he said to me, look, your problem is that whatever the disturbance, there is a normal type of bacteria that grows, in the colon, and it digests your food so that the buildup of gas doesn't occur because... And then he told me about acidophilus and bifidus and this sort of thing, and he prescribed a course of treatment for me, of acidophilus. Now, another doctor laughed at me and said, this is probably what they call psychosomatic, your mind over matter. So you probably were so eager for relief, you were so desperate that you believe. But I'll tell you, from the time McDowell treated me for this thing with the culture, what he said is a bacterial culture, the thing went away. The thing went away. I did all kinds of things like barium, whatever it was, enema, barium, meal, and so on to see if there's anything. Nothing like that. I took the culture that Dr. McDowell gave me, and I didn't feel the pain. A good while afterwards, I felt a kind of, recurrence, not as bad as it was at first. But this time I didn't bother to go to Dr. McDowell because whatever he had sold me was being sold at Health Services Center, which was on Upper Bridge Street, in the area where Western Union is there. So I went and I bought it, I took it, and I got a relief from this thing, which I hadn't felt for a very, very long time. Anyway, yesterday it said, your time, for a little recurrence, I guess. So one time I'm feeling a pain in my hip. Another time I'm feeling the pain in the same lower left quadrant, a good word, and the thing is shooting. One time it's like a mild dull pain. Another time it's a sharp pain. I wasn't too perturbed, but at some point I called Nigel and said, I don't think I can come in, and I'll stay and watch Parliament as much as I can. So it's something I've been there before. It stayed with me throughout the day. It stayed with me throughout much of last night. And at some point in the night, going into the wee hours of the morning, it left me alone. So I'm not one of those who say that it's a gas that's going down in my leg. It's a this pain that is, the pain moves because I guess the nerves that it bothers, they fire in different sequence in different places and so on. But the good news is that at some point this morning, it gave me a little relief. And I wasn't too bothered that I might have cancer as many years ago. I could still have it, But now that it's good to educate ourselves, to get a little knowledge, to have discussion with your doctors, to do your own reading. So maybe you might understand the concepts of referred pain and the digestion that can be inhibited because, if you take, antibiotics and so on, they might kill off the healthy bacteria culture in addition to killing off the bad bacteria, but they tend not to be that discriminating. And so there could be a gas buildup. I cannot tell you what it was, but it's a long time I had not felt this thing. And so I just thought I should share that with you, that it's good to talk to doctors. It's good to go to a doctor's visit. The knowledge that you get and to read, it can last you a long time, even though you're not in a doctor's office, because I haven't felt anything this morning, but ask me why it flared up yesterday. I simply don't know. It could be something you ate. I've thought about peanuts, which is legumes, just like the beans and so on, that I tend to avoid for the very same thing, the fermentation and the bloating. I had some peanuts. When was it? Today is Thursday, on Tuesday. So I've been thinking maybe not having had them for a long time, that maybe the buildup of the gas, whatever it was, affected me. But doesn't seem to be anything serious. Happy to be back with you folks. Can you imagine I spend so much time telling you my business? In the days when, you were being trained in broadcasting and the formal things, one of the things I remember that was uniform among different people that you might say were my instructors, whatever, and so on. They always said whenever you are doing any sort of broadcasting, it even applied to news, always picture yourself as having a conversation with one person, that you are chatting with one person one-on-one. And I think it was also said to me that if you're hosting a talk show, you need to talk to people as if you're having a little friendly, almost informal chat, while not lowering your standards, of course. So I think maybe I've taken this with me throughout life and share experiences with people. Speaking of sharing experiences, it's not my experience, but there's been a video circulating on social media showing a vehicle that is parked or that has stopped on the side of the road, but it is on the paved asphalt section of the road, the marked section, or one of the lanes, occupying it. Apparently, the driver and whoever else was in the vehicle decided to stop for some food. If what I'm seeing from that short video clip, it goes on, I say it's short, but it took a couple minutes, you can see that there is sufficient space on the side of the road. By the side of the road, I mean, because people always tell you, I was on the side of the road, the man was on the side of the road, and they come and they hit the man and this kind of thing, you know. On the side of the road means that you're on the paved section and you even inside, you know, the outer line that is marked and so on. But that black vehicle, looked like an SUV and so on, is parked. And you can see there is sufficient space, you know, to the left-hand side where we must drive, where the vehicle could have pulled off. Yes, there were a couple of, you know, puddles and so on. It's not the paved. Even the paved sometimes has potholes. But whoever was there, they're having whatever reason it is, and it was not anything having to do with police work or traffic management, because it turns out it was a police vehicle, you know, driven by a police officer, and the passenger was in a police. They're both in uniform, you know, visibly in uniform. They stopped to buy some food to eat. Now, police are human beings, they're people. We don't know what their shift was like, what their assignment. They need some food, they stop. But come on, man, you know, they could have pulled off on the side of the road. They could have pulled off the paved, you know, section, gotten out of the traffic lane, but they stopped there and they're obstructing traffic. People have to wait to go around them if there's vehicle coming from the other side, you know. And at some point, another officer, third officer, patrol officer on one of the police patrol bikes pulls up alongside this black SUV, police SUV. And you can see him speaking. You can't hear what he's saying, you know, the video. And gesticulating, you know, in an animated way, like basically having some choice words to tell to them. How y'all could park there, how y'all could be on the road there. Maybe what he should have done is charge them, you know. That's what he probably should have done. There's no law which says that police can't charge other police, you know. There's no law which says that police who commit traffic violations, that they can't be pulled up for it in traffic court and so on. There's no law which says that. You know, police are, once they are sure that they have, you know, their bases and their you know, their processes and their fundamentals right, there's nothing. Apparently, they didn't really pay him much mind. They went about their business. Not the one who's the driver didn't try to come and pull it off the thing. The patrolman turned around and went back the other way. But I'm sure what he was telling them is, you know, fellas, come on, you know, y'all should do better than that. Y'all should set a better example. When they were finished their business, I think they may have picked it up a little bit in terms of expediting. They got back into the vehicle, one in uniform at the wheel, the other one, you know, sitting next to him, and they drove off. Police, this is not the kind of example you need to be setting. Right now, as this thing shows, there are cameras everywhere. People have phones. Everybody has a phone. They can record what you're doing. Be above reproach, you know. Set the example. You know, be the ones who are shown to be observing the law, not breaking it unnecessarily. And I say unnecessarily because there are times when police have to do things that on the surface of it may seem like they are, you know, like they're breaking the law. There are times they will, you know, but they put on their sirens. They'll do something like that. They will, you know, they skirt with danger because what they do is something that impacts all of us. And we have to understand those kinds of things. And when those who are charged with charging us, with pulling us up, with enforcing the law, with administering, you know, what it says must be done to people, pull up on a side and so on, issue tickets and so on. They have to come up as good exemplars. They have to come up and don't do this kind of thing. Like I said, it wasn't a case where two very hungry policemen who have been, working overnight or whatever and so on, that they, there's enough space. There's enough space at the side of the road that you could have pulled off, from the traffic lane and so on. But anyway, so much for that. I'm sure this is not reflective of the majority of police, who don't seem to abuse their sirens and whatever. They'll stay in the traffic, they observe the traffic lights, they'll do everything like everybody else. They'll roar to life when they have to, but they don't exude an arrogance of, because we are cops, we can do bloody well what we feel like, no matter how much it impacts, it affects, it inconveniences, it endangers other road users and so on. I don't think this in any way is reflective of the police. Now, I'm aware that Parliament is on, and as I've said to people, it's clear that the same crowd that follows the real issues are those who generally will be glued into the Parliament. And an interesting Parliament it is. I meant to say this the last time I was here concerning this, a few days now, concerning this recommendations for desalination and so on. Desalination is a relatively expensive process. And I'm telling you, if we introduce desalination in St. Lucia on a big scale, begin to prepare ourselves that the authorities, WASCO, NURC, National Utilities Regulatory Commission and all that, they probably will have little choice but to raise the price of water, the water bills, as we say, that are charged to consumers. If the government, the state, whoever has to continue subsidizing water, because we do not seem to understand that water is heavily subsidized because it is considered to be an essential, unavoidable necessity for people. And in order to preserve good health in the country, and a whole lot of other things, you have to ensure that people have a constant, reliable, and safe source of drinking water. Of course, a lot of people are taking the WASCO water that is being produced at way below cost for the public, for people. They're feeding it into their system. Some of them telling you it's natural spring water, and it's mountain spring water, and it's all kind of pure spring water and so on. And they're taking the cheap water of WASCO, running it maybe through, some cheap filter that anybody can buy anywhere. Some are running it through, I suppose, more sophisticated systems of reverse osmosis and that sort of thing. And maybe, but they're bottling it in plastic bottles, which are an environmental problem for us because of our poor, don't carriage disposal practices. And they're selling it, and the price for one bottle, let us say the liter bottle that you will buy, and people have unlimited markup on it. WASCO cannot charge you more than a certain rate for the water. If it is, whatever, $15, $10, $5, whatever, per 1,000 gallons and so on, and if they put 25 cents on it, we're ready to go to war. We're in fight, we're out with placards and protests. The government, and of course there'll be the predictable, the usual suspects at those marches, attending them, the same people who will be telling those shack dwellers who have some shack at Bannon and so on, don't move. Don't move until they give you $1 million and this kind of thing. They hard work, You see what's going on at Redway Beach, at the, Isla Resorts, Mount Pima development on the beach there and all. I happen to know a few things about it. I don't want to say too much, because the people who told me, they made it clear to me, we don't want to seem like we're getting into a fight with an ordinary St. Lucian, like we are using our weight to blow them away. But they know who's behind it, because agreement had been reached already. But I'll talk about that more later, But the water, you have 25 cents on it. Say the wow, Philip J. Pierre, Valet Bou, that's what we'll do. But people are taking the water, and they're making loads of money on it, taking the WASCO water, saying they purify or whatever. I don't want to sound like I'm in any way hurling any insinuations at them, but they're taking it and they're making mince of money off it. However, we don't want to pay anything more. And I'm telling you, if we go the way of desalination, that is a more sophisticated, more involved process that requires some technology, because the very term reverse osmosis Those of us who did a little bit of chemistry, whatever, at school and so on, will know that osmosis is the process by which water moves across a semi-permeable membrane from an area of high concentration, that's high concentration of water, to an area of lower concentration. Okay, so if you put water on one side and you put syrup on the other side on a semi-permeable membrane, it's not like a strainer where it can flow freely, but like it has to filter through, like a cloth, something like that. The water it's not the syrup that will move to the water will move to the syrup, because the water as itself is in an area of high concentration, so it's moving to the syrup, which is an area of relatively low concentration of water. There is less water per unit, whether that unit be a cubic centimeter or milliliter or whatever. There is more water in water itself than there is in syrup, of course, because the syrup has sugar, whatever, dissolved in it, or crystals and so on. Reverse osmosis, and that's where I'll tell you it needs some technology, is that you are taking water from an area of high concentration, of relatively low concentration, which is seawater, because it has salt, it has a whole lot of things dissolved in it, grains of sand and a whole lot of things that you have to take from there of relatively low concentration of water and send it across a very sophisticated, very expensive, specialized membrane, so that water will come out minus the salt, minus all the calcium and magnesium and sand and whatever, so that it comes out on the other end as potable water. So it is moving a reverse from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration, which is what is giving to you. So it is reversing the normal order of osmosis. That is why it is called reverse osmosis. Water from a salt area of low concentration, because it has salt, it has this, and then to bring it to an area of high concentration where you have just water, very few impurities. Reverse osmosis has taken out whether they have to do other treatment and so on. Now, here's the other thing again, apart from all the technology and machine, and it uses electricity, the reverse osmosis plant. We know about the pumps and everything that requires, and the treatment works, they all require electricity. But reverse osmosis is another animal, is a different animal, is a more hungry animal where it is. And those membranes, they have to be changed after so much use and how many gallons go through them. And the membranes are not cheap. There are other things in a reverse osmosis plant that are not cheap, But I'm telling you, just the membranes, the cloth, the fabric, special material and so on. That because now is water have to be going through that constantly. It have to be filtering out salt and this and that and the other and whatever impurities that has to be doing that. So that has to be changed, and that's some good money. And I don't think we manufacture it anywhere in the Caribbean. As there's so many things, you get the garbage trucks and so on, but the parts for them and this that breaks down and so on is always from England and those places, and that's where they eat in Europe. Printers, copiers, you can get a nice sophisticated, how do you call that, an all-in-one printer, copier, scanner and fax machine all in one, less than $100 US, $150 US, but it's afterwards, the toner, the ink, that's where they eat in your grains, in them, if you know what grains means. That's where they eat in your grains with it. So, here's another thing that we have to be concerned, and that's the one I wanted to come to before we go for the break. This reverse osmosis plant, you have to put it in a place where the water is as tranquil and calm as possible, insofar as the intakes, insofar as the point where it sucks in the water from the sea. The salt water of the sea, you're going to change. You're going to go and put it in a place, let us say Tapillon or whatever it was, or Bannon. Well, I think they've done a good job with it. Was before, where people make a point of dumping their garbage, or where the garbage collects and so on. First of all, just the sight of it will cause public confidence in how much that thing is worth dealing with, because you can take septic tank discharge water and you can purify it for people to drink, and it will be at a standard maybe even better than what they get elsewhere, because of all the purifications that you do with it and so on. But once people know it's septic tank water, who want to drink it? People don't want that. I mean, you can take septic tank water and tell me, that, look, man, look at this. Look at when we dip our test strips in it. The thing is bad. It is, no microbes in it and this and that. But the people have said, look, you know, you can't convince me. You can't tell me that, you know, you put it. If I don't know, I don't know. But, you know, so you have to put this thing in a place where you don't have to deal with too many things about unclogging intake, and because so many plastic bottles and so much discharge of direct sewage in that area of the sea. You probably want to put it in an area, you know, that looks kind of clean. You know, the kind of way where you see Ascochon, you know, you go there and you can see the bottom of the, you know, of the water when you take a dive and so on, because the water is so clean. Amazingly, you know, Pigeon Point have, you know, it's like that, you know, that area that is, you know, that is closer to the park and so on. So I was surprised to go there and to see how the water looking, you know, so clean, considering, you know, it's in the north of the country and so on. I was surprised some areas. But you want to put it in a place where the water is relatively tranquil, by which I mean it's not a choppy water, because then it will be kicking up sand and pebbles and so on, and what you have to filter is even more. Here's a problem, I think. Reverse osmosis, the side of the island you put it on will be, I suppose you might probably want to put it more on the west coast, although reports about the west coast and so on, I ain't going to go into details of it, but over the years have not been too good in terms of what they're finding in the water. You probably want to put it in a place that's less choppy than the place that faces the wind, the Atlantic side, the East Coast and so on, where you can have a lot of, you know, turbulence and all of that. So you want to put it in a place with the least turbulence and choppiness of the water. There is something that challenges this, and that is a problem you can ask people in Antigua and other places, usually up north. I don't think the Windward Islands have too much need for, or have had too much need for, as much water as you'll get in the Leeward Islands, the Antigua and those places, because a lot of them have no rivers. The concept of on an island with no rivers is probably foreign to a lot of us who from Dominica, St. Lucia, you know, even Martinique, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you know, Trinidad and so on. Maybe Barbados a little more, but Barbados underneath their limestone, I think they've had fairly good. But you have it there, and you know the annual sargassum thing, that's become a serious problem. You know, they set up one of them in Antigua in a place called Barnacle Point, which is on the west coast of Antigua, close to the airport in the St. George constituency in the Coolidge area. There's a seaside there they call Barnacle Point. And it was working well, sophisticated, advanced and so on, until sargassum really became a problem. Because, I mean, when the sargassum there, the problem with the intakes getting clogged and so on, and if they had never foreseen having to go and shut down for a little while to clean out that thing and so on, it is a problem. So I don't know if we decide to go the way of, reverse osmosis desalination plants, how this annual sargassum problem is going to help us. There will have to be perhaps some modifications, some enclosures for the intakes that will probably keep at bay at least some of the seaweed, much of it. And that area of Antigua is notorious for a lot of sargassum. There is a beach there they call Shell Beach or something. Oh my goodness me, it is just, you know, the sargassum, they actually use the machine that they put in the sea, and that, you know, will take out a lot of it and so on. It's facing, you know, what's the name of the place? Dutchman's Bay and so on. It's a serious problem there. So I don't know if we have to go the way of reverse osmosis, which is already expensive in itself because of the parts and components such as the membrane, because of the electricity consumption, the technology of changing what is the natural order of osmosis of water, moving from an area of high concentration to one of lower concentration and flipping it and all these sorts of things, you know, and we still don't want to pay more for the water. Much less now that the sargassum has added another layer of complication and difficulty to that whole process. The real issues, we take our first break, and when we come back, we'll begin taking your calls. You call, you will not be turned away.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluffs. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. Real issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM.
Why are you suffering from aches, pains, and illnesses? When there's help for you. At Health Service Center, we offer a wide range of treatment that has been scientifically proven to help you with your aches, pains, and illnesses. Our ICT machine is one of the most effective devices in the health field. It has shown positive results in many health problems, such as back pains, shoulder pains, migraine headaches, pain in the knees and legs, poor circulation, arthritis, diabetic neuropathy, numbness in the feet, strokes and sports injuries. ICT, repairs, rebuild. The power to heal, the future of pain relief.
McDowell Supplements, an effective way to ensure you and your loved ones are getting the daily recommended intake of essential vitamins, minerals, and other important nutrients necessary for optimal health. Naturally, we carry an array of health and wellness supplements. McDowell's Immune Booster enhances your body's defense to fight colds and flu, boosts your immune system, prevents viruses and other airborne diseases. McDowell's Colon Cleanser prevents constipation, helps in removing toxins from the colon, detoxifies the body, and regulates your bowel movements. McDowell's Prostate Health prevent the enlargement of the prostate, improve urinary flow, and reduce frequent urination, especially at night. Moringa oleifera capsules are rich in minerals like calcium, potassium, zinc, magnesium, iron, and copper, vitamins like beta-carotene of vitamin A, vitamin B such as folic acid, vitamin C, D, and E. McDowell's Potassium Complex, used for treating and preventing low potassium levels, high blood pressure, preventing stroke, and aid in weight loss. McDowell's Triple Magnesium relaxes the muscles, relieves cramps and helps to control high blood pressure, improves sleep, and can calm the nerves. Magnesium is very important for the normal functioning of cells, nerves, muscles, bones, and the heart. McDowell's Ginger Turmeric helps to relieve pain, decrease nausea and enhance the immune function to help protect against illness and infection. Ginger turmeric has powerful anti-inflammatory properties and improves your circulation. Don't hold health back. Let health strike back. McDowell's, the better way to start your health. Visit Health Service Center, John Compton Highway, call 453-6417. Let your wellness be our stress.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluffs. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM.
Appreciate you staying with the real issues on this Thursday, and it is day number 26. Jaquan, I'm getting better, you know. I wouldn't tell you what I'm drinking, but I'm getting better. Maybe that's what I'm drinking too much now to make sure I don't always get the day wrong, you know. That's probably having some side effect of the pain I was feeling yesterday, but I'll never admit that, okay? Yeah, the 26th day of March 2026. Our program, as you know, airs weekdays from 12:30 until 2 p.m. on the radio station that's Real FM, serving you on the frequencies of 91.3 for the north and 91.5 for the south. Now, people, I've been saying that I don't want to say too much, and I'll be a little repetitive here. To my brethren, the supporters, and I have no doubts about your genuineness and your firmness. I make no secret that I have and have always supported without wavering the St. Lucia Labour Party. I've never made any secret of it. I've never been ashamed of it. I met a guy from the Denry Valley whose name seemed to have re-emerged, and he met me by the dealer some time ago when I went to service my vehicle. And you know, anytime people who know me for a long time feel that a conversation with me has to become like some some kind of theatric that they engage in. They want everybody to hear. They're talking loud, you know. Hey, Sheldon, man, long time I don't see you. I've been meaning to call you, you know, and to share my thoughts with you, but, you know, the moment I hear you say that, you know, like you can find no fault with the Labour Party, and, you know, I say, I don't know why he wants to, like it's some kind of show. I'm kind of soapbox he wants to stand on and whatever and so on. And I said, I ever said that I don't criticize anything that they do. There are some Labour Party people, including some very high up, who I got to learn in the course of the past year. They don't have too many nice things to say about me, you know. One of them actually called somebody who had given me some information about a raw deal he felt he had been given, a couple of them. And I said, you know, they need to look into those things, you know, and apparently somebody way up has called another and said, you know, do not talk to Shelton and give him any information and let him know those things, because he'll go and blast it out on air, and or with him, he doesn't like the Labour Party and he has a problem with the Labour Party. But me say, gade kwa mo me say, omun jo dikali idea omun that mo Shelton Daniel mo high Labour Party, when you grudge against Labour Party, gade kwa mo dio lot by me, but this about mo me say. One, I didn't make too much of it, you know. No good deed ever goes, you know, unpunished and so on. Other people have had their things, you know, saying like, you know, one minister at the time, you know, texted me that it seemed like I'm attacking the government, not Flambeau government, you know, I'm attacking the, you know, like I have some kind of beef with the government and so on. Lord knows that I don't, but if something is plainly wrong, and you are convinced that it is wrong and should not be done so, why shouldn't you talk about it? I've said before openly, when I've been asked to be a guest speaker at constituency conferences of Labour Party, you know, representatives have invited me and so on, that if being Labour is a disease, consider me an incurable case, you know. But being Labour doesn't mean I have to agree with every single thing, or if something is so plainly off target that I can't say so. By the same token, I don't want to engage in this grandstanding and posturing, as I've criticized it, that some Labour Party people like to do that before anything comes up that seems to point derogatively. Derogatively is a word, or derogatory? I'm not sure, but in a derogative way at their party, that they seize upon the opportunity, like they're trying to parade themselves as being so independent, and not because I support them that I'm not going to, you know, like it's a deliberate kind of piece of showmanship and so on. So I met this guy. I don't even remember if he was once Labour. And the guy claimed that he knows because he and I were in the Labour Party together, and until he broke ranks. And I have said, you know, as I realized it was a show he was putting because there were a few people around, so he wanted to do that. What I do remember about this guy is that a former MP once claimed that he and two other fellas came together and put money to pay a hitman $30,000 to shoot him, to kill him. That's what an MP said. And he didn't say it in secret, you know. The MP said it at a pre-election, heavily attended mass rally of the Labour Party on the playing field near Grand Riviere Dennery, new nice playing field and so on, opposite the Grand Riviere senior primary, or is it the secondary school right now? But you know what I'm talking about. Before you reach the you know, the bridge and so on. I remember, you know, Tony Torrance talking about three businessmen from the Dennery Valley who had paid somebody, put together and paid somebody $30,000 to shoot him. I didn't hear any protest about it. That's what I remember about the guy. If he was in the Labour Party, so many people, they move. I never begrudge people, they move. I've never moved, I've never changed, I've never switched or whatever. But the guy was doing a bit of posturing. Like I said, his name as about how, you know, he decided not calling me. And so I said, so why are you talking to me now? You know, I'm the same person. You know, I haven't changed and so on. You know, what's different about me? These are the ways when people have been essentially defeated, they've been discredited, they've been dismantled, they've been deconstructed, whatever we want to call it, that they try to reinsert themselves in an heroic way, you know, or a manner that seems heroic on the consciousness of the people. They're standing up for the king's chain and for the queen's chain and this sort of thing and so on. The king's chain and the queen's chain is not something that is upheld and that is administered by everyone deciding to take matters into their own hands and how they will take matters into their own hands. If that's the case, you can go anywhere and break down a jetty. You can go anywhere and take your whatever and go and mash up a piece of hotel because it's traversing the king's chain, you know. You'll do that, but there is a government. There is a government, and the government is the government of the crown. The government is the government of the king, represented by the governor general. You know, the government is Sir Cyril Errol Melquiades Charles's government. It's his government, according to the constitutional order. You understand? So if that government acting on his behalf in his name, you know, decides through its crown lands or NCA or whichever it is, to say we are leasing this section of the Chinskin, I think they even have the power to sell it. You know, I think they even have the power to delineate and to decertify a certain area. It's not somebody who just go in and cut fence and go in and mash up hotel and do anything. There is government in the country and we respect it when it is the United Workers' Party. We don't go and mess with them, because we know how they use the police against people to shoot people and do all this kind of thing. It is the Labour Party that has always had a humane side, that has been a party that is not a brute party, that is not a party of heavy-handedness and so on, that thing we can come and take chances with them. But anyway, he did his little piece of posturing. And I tried to get away from him very quickly. Before the election, another guy met me in that little place on the boulevard, that little alleyway that used to be before that. They have food places there, and I think I may have told you that. I did tell you that. But I was going in there because there's someone who sells food there, you know. But what I like most of all is that the food is served with a good serving of vegetables. So if you say you want a fish salad, they give you the fish, whatever it is. But what I like is the good, plentiful amount of greens that they give you with it, because I just find there's not enough greens being served consistently. You know, especially when you're in an urban environment and there isn't that kind of way where you can reach out your hand and pick a fruit and so on that will provide a bit of fiber. You have to make sure you have the greens, because your inside is going to be affected with constipation and bloating and all this sort of thing and so on. So I go there, and a guy who knows me from donkey years way back, I might consider a friend, the guy passes, Shelton! So why is that there? You and I will have to go walking. And I'm saying, but you live in the same lane with me. We see all the time. You know, do you have to make a my way like that with me in the presence of people? Not that I mind it, but you know, you wonder, what's the game plan? And this is the same thing I felt with that guy who met me by the dealer when I went to service. When people want to make a my way with you, you know, and so on. And I kind of shut down on him at that point, because a little while from election, you know, it's some nonsensical, déclassé, no self-respect, this kind of behavior that is large, called Jean Laoui back. And I tell you, one highly educated guy, a highly educated guy, cultured person and so on. But I just let it slide, continued, having my nice little veggies and so on, which I haven't gone for a little while, not because of that, of course. But because when you go to town, unless you're very early, getting a parking and so on, can be a little bothersome, etc., etc. So, especially when it's at a certain time of the month. But I just want to tell you, coming back to my point, be very careful, you Labour Party people, who once you hear something derogatory said about your party and your government, you feel you have to jump on the bandwagon because you want to show that you're such a level-headed person and you're so, you're so balanced and so on, and you're not biased and so on, and you're taking it that before you have heard, sometimes there's a lot more that you have not heard. Because the people with NCA, with Crown Lands, with what's the other agency, Invest St. Lucia, the minister, they consider themselves at a level that if they were to come down, with everything they have and everything they know, like a ton of bricks, it would look like a turkey shoot. It would look like, they're using their weight and their status and their so on, to squelch and obliterate and blow away, an ordinary person who have a shop thing and so on. And there is something that they understand, which is another thing that I like about this Labour Party, They understand and they practice what I have to give the credit for that, explaining that to me, to Victor Philip Le Corbusier, the former Attorney General and Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs, and I think at one time he held a public service, who explained to me when he was being accused of a whole lot of things and trying to be disparaged and denigrated by people who will not be at his level at all on any way, any metric or intellectual, academic, career-wise, whatever it is, whatever you want to say about him. And he said to me, Shelton, there is something called the decorum of public office. And I am someone who believes in it, and I always try to practice it. And sometimes, not exactly the way he spoke, but you decide to just leave certain things alone, and people believe you are being aloof. It's not being aloof. You know that if you engage and you allow, yourself, the conviction that you have may come across as being, overly passionate and fiery and so on. So sometimes you maintain your peace and allow, or you put out a statement that doesn't go too deep into things where it seems like you're directly, because you do not want to ruffle and disturb. You don't want, these are my words, you don't want to make the waters, like I said about those reverse osmosis plants, too choppy and too turbulent when it comes to the decorum of public office. And he said a lot of the information that has been put out about impacts report and all those things, they are false. They are false. But then I am responsible for maintaining the security of the impacts report and ensuring that certain things do not get out there which can cause people to be targeted, which can prejudice future court cases and prosecutions and so on. And in the process, I have to take a lot of blows. But this is what I signed up for. This is what being a minister. So the decorum of public office, I'm not going to go and compromise it. And I suspect, and I think one of them who spoke to me off the record actually told me that they want to maintain a certain degree of decorum because they know what's going on in the background. And the very same thing that happened with Banan, where generally 99% of the people who were there having the structures and the shops and the whatever it was they were doing there and so on, to make way for the development, they understood and they agreed until a certain opposition politician got to at least one of them and said, don't move, don't go. They have to give you so much money which is way out of the ballpark of anything that was demanded or offered to the other people. That's what's happening up there. I'm telling you, something like that is happening up there. You see, the people who did not get to call Leandra from Choiseul to a meeting, when they become prime minister again and they call her to a meeting, Leandra George Fields actually, they didn't get to call Leandra to a meeting, but they're getting to call gullible people to meetings and to tell them to engage in certain patterns of behavior because there is money to pay them a lot more. I can tell you about the story of people who agree, who accept, who say, okay, you're offering me this, I will take it. You understand? And then suddenly they don't want to take the envelope from the hand of those who giving it to them anymore, even after they agree. The goalpost has to keep shifting. Because if you can give me 30,000, you probably can give me 50,000. So, it's a matter of this kind of shiftiness of the goalpost and so on that has been going on among other things. The lady was not invited to a meeting that the different agencies and the minister were having, I think, someday last week. She was not supposed to be part of the meeting. The meeting involved the minister, it involved Invest St. Lucia, it involved the NCA, it involved Crown Lands, it involved the developers and so on. But somehow she got wind of the meeting, or she happened to be there, and she walked into the meeting. Nobody chased her away. She was not supposed to be there. She was not invited, but she came into the meeting and they decided, okay, we have nothing to hide. They allowed her into the meeting. She said her bit. Let me tell you, this lady has been offered and agreed to accept three forms of compensation. One, they told her, whatever it takes or costs to break down your structure, because it has to move, we are going to pay the cost of it. The new location that we have agreed to give you and which you have agreed to accept, initially it was you will have to take a truck and carry it to the other place and so on. No. We will transport it for you. I think the developer even said, look, as part of our construction, we have transport, whatever, so she just has to tell us when she's ready, we'll pick up, we'll carry, we'll transport for her. I think NCA, whoever, everybody said, whatever the transport, forget about, don't worry about the cost, we will transport it for you. They said additionally to that, the demolition is on us. The transport is on us. The reconstruction to set you up at the new place. And there were all different things that she said. She wanted a special type of oven, one that fit in with the traditional thing, the food, whatever, and so on. They said, okay, we will do all of that. We'll put it for you at our cost. You won't have to worry about the reconstruction, about the rebuilding, about the erection of the new place where we have agreed to put you and you have agreed to settle. I mentioned about 3 compensations. Let's say we don't consider the transport a compensation, but they agreed to the demolition. They agreed to provide the transportation. They agreed to the reconstruction, the erection of the new place. And they told her, give us a price of how much you will be losing every day in terms of business, in terms of turnover, in terms of income, whatever, and we will pay you that amount for the time that it will take to set up everything. That was agreed. But it's my understanding that the goalpost kept shifting in terms of what I say I will lose and what I will want, and it just keeps changing. And even when the check is being handed over, it's being refused. And those who spoke to me, they said they know. They know. Who is the agent provocateur? Who is the background troubler? Who is the, up to now, instigator of what is going on there? And too many of us are taking these things at face value. We hear it and we jump on board, including some Labour Party supporters. Since when you know this Labour Party has become a victimizing Labour Party and against Maliway Labour Party, a Labour Party that's trying to fight down people and shoot down people? Since when? Since when you all know Kenson Kazimi to be like that? Since when you all know Ernest Hilaire, you know, the man who has shepherded so many things down at Bannon and otherwise and has tried to see to it? Since when you all know Richard Frederick, you know, is in that kind of mold and so on? Since when? Since when you know they will ever do anything to hurt somebody who is popular, who people like, they like to hang out at the spot and so on, you know, to try to affect them? The developer, but work has to be done. It has to move forward. And we need to have a sense of scale. What time is it, Jaquan? 2 more minutes? I'm at 28 past already. Oh, yo. Monsieur. Manger raison, savent. And j'ai raison, plus n'a venu gon c'est plus. Anyway, c'est mon nom dit moi yo amen. Since when do we ever know that there are people who behave? And I was saying we need to have a sense of scale and proportion. What it is that we are going to hold up and sacrifice and keep back and prevent a development that has implications in terms of what is being pumped into our economy of hundreds of millions of dollars, construction, the workers, whoever they're bringing in from overseas, the rents, whether it's Airbnb, whether it's, accommodation costs, taxi, transportation, equipment, jobs for people, Who is going to stand up against a development at a time that we need it so badly? At the times that we are walking on the knife edge of attracting investments, at the times when we are on the tenterhooks, that at any moment something can be unleashed against us as tourism advisory, as this, as whatever, that the developers, depending on what jurisdiction they are, they can be sanctioned and they might, that our CIP can find itself blown away. So we need to have this kind of, if not redundancy, but at least this kind of compensatory mechanisms built into our economy because of so many things. It's like the ramp. Nobody say we don't need place to hang out, but how many hangout places do we have and the hangout becomes nothing but 100 young men who pull up in their cars and are in a contest crazy to see who have the best amplifier and the best speakers and the best hi-fi, and it's a boom, 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 boom. That this is the concept of hangout and development and so on. That's all they want to do. Not even in the water they want to go and take a dip. And the next thing they don't realize, the subliminal tension that they're unleashing in their own psyches, that they're stressed out, that they're angry, that soon they want to fight. Somebody pull a knife, somebody pull a gun. And on top of it all, when they go home, they get into their vehicles and they drive home. You look at the place, the fast food boxes, the bones, the chicken, the bottles, the cups and so on, that no matter how many drums, no matter how many bins you put with bags that can be removed, they're throwing everything all over the place. How much are you going to accommodate this kind of thing at the expense of developments which represents true foreign direct investment, that represent employment, and not just employment for us to remain what some people call slaves, but employment that opens a path, that shows us a way to ownership. A lot of ownership started with employment. A lot of people who have a small property now, who have whatever, they'll tell you, I used to work at that hotel for how many years, I used to do this and that, and that's when I decided to start my guest house. That's when I decided to start my place, because I understand a lot of things about tourists and what they like. A lot of people talk about all-inclusive, but the tourists themselves love an opportunity to come out of the hotel and come and sit here and to drink, this and that, a local rum punch and and a spice rum and this and that. They know because they worked at hotels and so on. Employment became a path to ownership. Employment became a path to investment. For them and so on. But if everything that we consider to be chill out and taking advantage of our space is always a protest, we protest so much that we protest against ourselves. Because that kind of littering and so on, it have to be a form of protest. Somebody protesting against something. Methinks that oft times we doth protest too much. And so we want to stop a development, whether at VG or at Redwi. We want to stall it with all kinds of protest and so on. But at the same time, nous on est dedans en pays ça. When it comes to getting true foreign direct investments, which is important, because it's not a case of we taking our money, whether it's national insurance money or whatever it is, although national insurance needs to get things to invest in, it needs to, because it's on the basis of investment that national insurance and all insurance, they invest that they can have, that reserve, that pool of money for them to pay the demands that are coming upon them. So if Cabot was a good investment, then so be it. But most times what we want is a hangout place that we can become absolutely ridiculous with the loudness of the music, different music from different cars and all the boom, 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 boom. That we can litter the place, there's a KFC next door. Nothing wrong with KFC. KFC, nothing about y'all, but y'all take it, a branded box and so on, and let it be somebody else's problem, even though there are bins there and there are safe ways of disposing of it. And at some point, what is supposed to be fun turns out not to be relaxing. There's always a tension inside people that leads to angry confrontations and somebody get knifed. Because fundamentally, when you're unhappy, no amount of loud music can showing off of your mag rims and your spoilers and your Bose sets and so on, and how you can, outblast somebody else will ever make you happy, It's something inside of you that's wrong. So don't go and start to rise up because you want to show impartial and to hinder development prospects that the very same Ernest Delay and McLeod Emmanuel and who you all want to be attacking. These fellas have to work so hard. These fellas have to be without sleep. It don't matter if they're getting $1 million a month. This is stressful. To do this, the places they have to go, the talks and so on, and all the networking and linkages they have to do to see if they can create an environment for us where there is economic growth, where there is economic development, where our people have opportunities not just for employment, but a path to ownership for themselves. And the country as a whole can be on a more sustainable footing. Well, if we can find money out of nowhere to be raising pension for people, to be increasing minimum wage, to be doing this, to be doing that, and still having a surplus, still having a surplus. Still operating within the budget and even having a budgetary surplus and so on. Not spending every dime and having to borrow. Borrowing for the first time this year, first time in 2 years this year that he had to borrow and so on. It calls for good management. It calls for sustainable sources of income and revenue for the country and so on. We ought to be careful in our sense of scale and proportion, that we don't focus too much upon, small things that at the end will not move us forward, while at the same time respecting and recognizing the people's need and their right to find enjoyment, to find recreation within their own space. But it cannot be that the only way we can own our space is in a destructive way or destructive ways. Real issues when we come back. The phone lines will be open for your calls and we'll be reading your messages. Today, I will be reading at least some of your messages.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. Real issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM.
Why are you suffering from aches, pains and illnesses? When there's help for you. At Health Service Center, we offer a wide range of treatment that has been scientifically proven to help you with your aches, pains and illnesses. Our ICT machine is one of the most effective devices in the health field. It has shown positive results in many health problems, such as back pains, shoulder pains, migraine headaches, pain in the knees and legs, poor circulation, arthritis, diabetic neuropathy, numbness in the feet, strokes and sports injuries. ICT, repairs, rebuild. The power to heal, the future of pain relief.
McDowell Supplements, an effective way to ensure you and your loved ones are getting the daily recommended intake of essential vitamins, minerals, and other important nutrients necessary for optimal health. Naturally, we carry an array of health and wellness supplements. McDowell's Immune Booster enhances your body's defense to fight colds and flu, boosts your immune system, prevents viruses and other airborne diseases. McDowell's Colon Cleanser prevents constipation, helps in removing toxins from the colon, detoxifies the body, and regulates your bowel movements. McDowell's Prostate Health prevent the enlargement of the prostate, improve urinary flow, and reduce frequent urination, especially at night. Moringa oleifera capsules are rich in minerals like calcium, potassium, zinc, magnesium, iron, and copper, vitamins like beta-carotene of vitamin A, vitamin B such as folic acid, vitamin C, D, and E. McDowell's Potassium Complex, used for treating and preventing low potassium levels, high blood pressure, preventing stroke, and aid in weight loss. McDowell's Triple Magnesium relaxes the muscles, relieves cramps and helps to control high blood pressure, improves sleep, and can calm the nerves. Magnesium is very important for the normal functioning of cells, nerves, muscles, bones, and the heart. McDowell's Ginger Turmeric helps to relieve pain, decrease nausea and enhance the immune function to help protect against illness and infection. Ginger turmeric has powerful anti-inflammatory properties and improves your circulation. Don't hold health back. Let health strike back. McDowell's, the better way to start your health. Visit Health Service Center, John Compton Highway. Call 453-6417. Let your wellness be our stress.
It is well known that diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, and other illnesses may restrict blood flow, which can lead to impotence and erectile dysfunction. This is why Enhance was formulated to meet these challenging health problems, which can reduce your ability to perform. If you're having problems maintaining your manhood, then reclaim your manhood today with Enhance. Enhance increases your energy level, boosts your stamina, and increases your endurance.
You can get your Enhance at Southwell VA4, Restorer Pharmacy Soufre, Knights Med Miku, Lay by Bar The Morn, Dexter's Place Jeremy Street Castries, Citygate Bar The City opposite the market, Plants Place Denry Highway, Arlette Supermarket Soufre, The Release Stress Bar Labrie Highway, Cool Joint Bar Victoria Schwazel, Prios Bus Stop 22, next to the Moshi Bus Stop opposite the Grosile bus stop. Prio's Bar and Grill in Corinth, Grosile.
Enhance, the best a man can get.
Live streaming has become one of the best ways to connect the funeral of a loved one with friends and family, both local and international. NBC Television will live stream your funerals on television and Facebook at a reasonable rate. With our state-of-the-art equipment, you can be assured that the quality of your funeral will be to your satisfaction. Call our office now and book your obituary and streaming with us. 758-453-7458.
Hello, all realist. Thank you for listening to Real FM. If you'd like to call our studio, here is the number. Call the direct line on 4533911, or you can WhatsApp call on 4879849. Call to participate, win prizes, request music, and interact with our announcers and DJs. Real FM, the People's Station.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluffs. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. Real issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM.
I know today is the budget debate is going on, the estimates of revenue and expenditure, but if you're up to it, the telephone lines are open for your calls. The numbers to dial, the local landline number 4533911, and you can also still call us on the WhatsApp line, which is 487-9849. That's 487-9849. If you want to call us via WhatsApp, you are welcome to do so. Now, let me go to the other area, which if you don't call, watch me talk all the way to 2 o'clock. Don't I always? I know, as I said, the people who really are real issues people are also the people, intelligent people, who are going to be following the budget debate closely. But I've expressed confidence that CARICOM will survive, that CARICOM will go on. This is not the first time, I believe, that we have seen leaders who come on and their tails are up. They feel they have the wind of some extra-regional power in their corner on a bilateral basis, and they can afford to thumb their noses at CARICOM. You know, we've seen it happen before, if not on a constant, but on certain issues and so on, that they believe that they have ties to America. There was one who was born in Boston, I think. He was actually a born American. There are others, you know, who believe that they have worked out deals, and so now the term is make a deal, and you have a deal, so, you know, who the hell needs CARICOM? It had started even before when people were saying how their country is not the region's ATM, and, you know, we hear a lot of that thing over the years until they all come back to earth. When they realize that they are a mere blip and dot on the map, and there isn't too much genuine concern about them in terms of who they are. It's all a matter of interest, geopolitical interest, and you're not really cared for. You're not really given, but they will make you feel that way when they can use you to achieve their divide and rule strategies. And I believe she's a relatively very old woman right now. She is maybe the oldest CARICOM head of government. I don't quote me on that, but she's probably the oldest CARICOM head of government, and I believe, like Donald Trump, she's on the exit plane of politics and occupying the high office in her country. But I think Kamala Persad-Bissessar does not seem to have the awareness to realize that she's just been used to spite CARICOM and to advance a geopolitical agenda that really does not square with Trinidad and Tobago's long-term interests. But she's not the only one. We can be forgiving of her for that. So when she talks about she does not support the reappointment of Dr. Carla Barnett, I should have pronounced that more delicately, Barnett, What do you say, Cornelia? I did better the second one. Dr. Carla, don't say Carla, Carla Barnett. Cornelia, you must be watching the debate, but shoot me a message. Tell me how I'm doing. Yes. That when Kamla Prasad Bisesa, who I believe at this time is only one of 2 female CARICOM heads of government, the other one being Mia Motley of Barbados. This is the first time we have had a woman as CARICOM Secretary General. We've had a woman, only one woman, as OECS Director General, if I remember, and that's St. Lucian, Dr. Len Ishmael. But there's something else that is significant about Dr. Carla Barnett. And I wrote about it one time long ago in the Star newspaper, I remember, about Belize. Dr. Carla Barnett is not just the first woman to be CARICOM Secretary General. She's the first Belizean to be Secretary General of CARICOM, period. Now, she's a lady on the quiet side, but I don't think CARICOM Secretary Generals are meant to be very high-profile people, some more so than others. In fact, the last time a CARICOM Secretary General stayed on for more than 10 years, usually I think it's an unwritten, a non-obligatory convention that CARICOM Secretaries General, as well as Directors General of the OECS, do not stay on or in the post for more than 10 years. The only time one person went beyond the 10 years and stayed on for 18 years and looked like he would have stayed on and gone on was a Trinidadian. A Trinidadian called Edwin Carrington. I'm not criticizing the gentleman. Nice fellow to meet and talk to. Very humble, no bombast about him. But Carrington stayed on for, and many people felt during that period that CARICOM essentially was not as vibrant as they were accustomed to it being, or it could have been at a very critical time. A time when the Economic Partnership Agreement with the European Union was being negotiated and signed and so on. Many people felt that CARICOM did not show sufficient leadership, that the leadership in that thing was taken over by the CARICOM regional negotiating machinery headed by a Jamaican, I haven't forget his name now, very bright guy, and that the agreement was negotiated to benefit certain territories that had their competitive advantage in services rather than in goods, and that Guyana was not happy, which is a primarily goods-based economy that, a lot of it went because the CRNM was based in Barbados and so on. And it was under CARICOM that a lot of people felt CARICOM was severely weakened and wasted, and it just did not show up as much as it could have. And and Carrington stayed for 18 years. The longest, I don't remember any other CARICOM Secretary General staying for more than 2 terms, Now, I'm not saying that anything to reproach Kamla Prasad Bisesa on that. That's not her fault. But when you find a woman prime minister who's a rarity in CARICOM, a rarity, and a woman prime minister is going out and publicly attacking and disparaging her and on some kind of thing like I do not support a reappointment and so on, and indicating that Trinidad and Tobago will follow its own lead and its own path in terms of membership in CARICOM and what it supports, and yes, we'll remain in CARICOM, but we'll do our thing and they do their thing. I mean, come on. Who will not see that as a personal protest against Dr. Carla Barnett? Who's not going to see that? I'm not saying Dr. Carla Barnett is perfect. I don't think I have the competence to appraise and evaluate and assess her or whatever. I don't. But a woman prime minister is doing that. Like you're on some kind of attack rampage against her. But here's my other reason. For many years, Belize seemed to have been a CARICOM member in name only. I'm not saying they were, but they were kind of like on the periphery. We hardly heard of Belize. We hardly heard of direct engagements with them. Like they were there, you know, because they were former British territory facing hostility and threat of takeover from neighboring Guatemala. You know, just like Guyana has had to deal with Venezuela, perhaps in a more open and direct way and so on. You know, but the matter of how do you get to Belize, the connections through air travel and flights are so difficult, almost impossible. You must route through America, through Miami, and then, you know, go down to Belize and so on. No direct flights. I hardly ever hear about sea connections like we have with Martinique. There's a good bit of sea, you know, to cross there. And especially these days with Trump bombing anybody on the sea on the grounds of so-called narco-terrorism, a charge that I never even knew existed. You know, on that wide stretch of sea, which I think falls within an area called the South Atlantic Weapons Range. So U.S. fighters and so on, that they want to test how they fire missiles and so on. I believe that stretch of sea, at least part of it, falls within, you know, the weapons range of testing and so on. And that might be something. They might bomb you, and then when they realize, you know, they've messed up, they might just say, oh, it was in the weapons range and we didn't realize they were there because it's unusual, whatever. You know, and a large part of it falls within economic zones where are so vital to America and so on, fishing areas where they can catch whatever Atlantic, you know the whole lot of thing where it always works out in favor. But Belize has been so much on the periphery. We had more connections with Belize, I think, when we had a judge who was in our high court and is now on the CCJ, unless he has retired and I didn't hear, called Dennis Barrow from Belize. And the interesting thing is that Dennis Barrow's brother, also a QC called Dean Barrow, became Prime Minister of Belize and stayed for more than 2 terms and so on. Capable thing, you know. I always like it when a black man, you know, a man of African descent and so on in these multiracial societies and so on, becomes somebody who can lead. And he looked to be a very strong, stable leader and so on. But there were very few Belizean figures that you could associate with regional impact, like Justice Barrow and President Ting, and afterwards Dean Barrow's son, you know, in controversial circumstances, who was made it as a rapper in the States until he was busted for alleged, you know, homicide and so on. You know, Shine Barrow, who Allen tried to use in St. Lucia, and some became the. But apart from that, Dr. Carla Barnett is the most significant, you know, and most widespread known and figure and so on to come out of Belize in a CARICOM context. So, to find a CARICOM prime minister, another woman seeming to attack her, something ain't right, Kamala. It ain't right. And it's going to backfire if you last that long to see the backfire. It's not something that will be to the long or even medium-term benefit of Trinidad and Tobago. We have our call on the line. Real Issues, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, Shelton.
Hi, good afternoon to you.
I wanted to speak on this, Kamala, the PM of Trinidad's behavior.
Yes.
There have been disagreements with regard to appointment of leaders of the various body. Mm-hmm. I remember when Sir John was alive, it seemed like he wanted a St. Lucian in every regional organization to head every regional organization. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of pushback. But you never heard any public comments. For example, at the ECCB, Sir Dwight Venner was essentially installed at one point. And the PM of St. Kitts refused to see Sir Dwight when that was Kennedy Simmons, when Sir Dwight paid a courtesy call. And the islands had to meet. But everybody steamed it down. This is only public because some of us at the bank knew. But there was no public statement by any leader. And I find it strange, as you said, that she would object in such a manner. I don't know what the statutes of CARICOM says, but I know in the case of ECCB, there has to be unanimous consent for any kind of like a leader of, like the governor of the central bank. All member countries has to agree. It is not majority. But I think in the case of CARICOM, I stand corrected. it is majority. And my thing is that if Trinidad had an objection, they would have known that the term for appointment was coming up. They could have registered an objection in a timely manner. But to have her elected and then issue a statement, I think she's just been Trumpian, you know?
Yep.
And as I've said, Trinidad has been very fickle when it comes to the matter of regional unity. One time they're hot, one time they're cold, especially when the UNC is in power. Because the last time they were there, they were even talking about leaving CARICOM and joining NAFTA. That's how extreme. So we should not be surprised. This, like all things, shall come to pass.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. The unmistakable voice of Carlton Augustine there, weighing in on this whole matter of Trinidad and Tobago's position. And, you know, we will understand that we have been unceremoniously discarded before when the Cold War ended and all the focus was, you know, towards the more eastern side of the world, and it was the Ukrainians, and it was even Russia, you know, that was engaged, and it was, you know, the Far East and Taiwan and this and that and Vietnam, you know. You understand? The engagement was so powerful, and we were just skipped over for the most part. But some of us still want to come back and play Suse. And play Suse in the context of, I think the word Carlton used was very fickle. A very fickle Donald Trump who is here with you today. He gone away from you tomorrow. He turn against you. He have nothing good to say about you and that sort of thing. Donald Trump, you never know what side of the bed the man will wake up, you know, tomorrow. And I want to take this time to say just a little bit about America. I often look at America and I wonder whether America can and will ever recover from Donald Trump. Whether America will ever regain the trust of the rest of the world. And it has nothing to do with who is the next president or whether they will win or lose the midterms and so on. It has to do with how the world will come to regard America because of the behavior and the stances, if you can call them that, of Donald Trump. Because what's happening in the world was never at peace in the sense of there was no conflict and disagreement and hostility and that kind of thing, you know. But never before have I seen a world being set up for a legacy of hatred. Hatred in many dimensions and directions, across many borders and zones and etc. For there to be a hatred that you know is going to last a very long time. And there'll never be any trust again. You see this thing about you tell people, let's talk. You do it more than once. Okay, let's talk. Maybe we can resolve this thing. And then while the talks are pending or going on, you're bombing them. I don't know who's going to trust for talks and for ceasefire and for any of that kind of thing. Because even as you have talks now, you're moving Marines and you're moving 82nd Airborne, whatever, into position to do all kinds of things. There's only so long that you can do that before there is a total breakdown of any kind of talks. You see what's going on there with Israel? Treating Lebanon like Lebanon is its perennial doormat and so on, that we can wipe our feet on you anytime we have a problem with Hezbollah and so on. We take over, we send ground troops, we invade, we flatten whole cities and buildings and so on. I don't know if they understand down the road how the Lebanese are going to feel about you. And like I said, you can have all the military power in the world. It's not a simple earthquake of volcano can bring you to your knees. You know, what you are doing to different countries and bombing them and in the name of destroying Hamas, you kill, 80,000 people, the vast majority of which are non-combatants, are women, are children, and you don't give a damn about it. The hatred down the road for a people who went through a nightmarish experience in Europe called the Holocaust and so on. Should you ever find yourself in a position where you cannot project that kind of military might against so many adversaries and foes, what is going to become of you? But we have to go now, folks. Thanks for listening. Real issues till tomorrow.
26 low, double daily breath. 1, 2, 9, 10. Big 4, 6, 1, 0, 1. Big for multi-X, FP. Pick 2, Pixel Multi-X 2F. One off 248. Lucky 3056. Lucky 3 Multi-X FP.
The man, the voice, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff.